they live in Nashville still.
Oh, okay.
I was there for 12 years and then moved to Denver about 3 months ago.
You like it better in Denver?
Okay, guys, you can start whenever you want.
Okay, ready? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the live, and then you go ahead and join me. So hang on. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Transparent with Tina. My guest today is amazing. I'm really excited for this talk. I just love doing what I do because I get to choose my guests.
I love doing what I do because I get to choose my guests. I love doing what I get to choose my guests.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm clicking accept and it's not accepting. Hang on a second. There you are.
Hi.
Sorry, guys. Had to turn my volume down. Anyways, little rough start. But welcome, Lauren Zoller. That's how you pronounce your last name, correct?
Yes.
Oops, we're frozen. Oops.
Sorry, Tina.
Hey,
do you have
Lauren,
another?
where are you? What happened to you?
Hi, I'm here.
I'm accepting you again.
Okay.
Do you have another microphone that's turned on, or your laptop is turned on and it's picking up
It's
audio?
frozen. You're frozen on the live. Huh.
I'll try to join again. I was in there and then it went.
No, somebody else is trying to join. Hey, everybody. Good morning. We're having technical issues. Let's see. You know what? Maybe we should go out and go back in again, Lauren. That's the only thing I think we should do. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna come back in again. So I'll see you in a minute. No.
Try and no. Morning. We're having technical issues. Let's see. You know what?
Tina, can you hear me on here?
Hey, I'm back. We're having technical issues, but let's hope that this one works. Waiting for my guest to join. She's fabulous. Her name is Lauren Zoller, and
hope that this one
she
works.
is just about to come on here. How's everybody doing?
Fabulous. She
Lauren. There it is. Hang on. Now people are jumping on. Let's see.
How's everybody doing?
Lauren,
where are you?
Mute your phone.
Oops.
If you can mute your phone, then there's not going to be any
You
more.
gotta laugh. I mean, I don't know what else to do. He's popping up. Oh, there you are.
You did it.
Hey, you're there.
I'm here. We did it.
Welcome, Lauren. Okay, so stay there. Don't move. Anyway, let me tell our guests who you are. You are a 7-figure entrepreneur, host of the Aligned Love podcast, speaker, author. You are a founder of the Aligned Love Experience. You're an expert practitioner in reparenting, generational healing, and somatic experiencing. Through your work, you've created the proprietary voice activation method, which I'm so curious to learn about, that's been used to help thousands of men and women who heal from past trauma and take ownership of their future. You're a certified dating and relationship coach, and your insights have been featured on the Drew Barrymore Show, the New York Post, Business Insider, Medium, NBC, blah, blah. I mean, lot. Okay. You often speak on topics such as embodiment attachment theory, somatic experiencing, and leadership. And your business endeavors are dedicated to helping build schools for underprivileged children in Honduras with the Boundless Foundation. Thank you so much for doing that. I love the fact that you give back, because I think we are in a society that it's all about me, which is, I think, is where the downfall is, to be honest with you. And I think that the more that we learn to receive and then give back, I think that's where the real juice of our lives is. So welcome. Now, I got to tell you first that things have been so synergetic for me in the last couple of months. I started with breath work about 3 months ago, completely shifted me. I don't know if you know who Danny Morell is. Do you know who Danny is?
I
Okay,
do.
so I went to his intensive. I had him on my podcast about a year ago, and I've been wanting to go to the intensive. So I did that. I started feeling different with the breath work. And then I started using sound frequencies. And I don't know if you do that too, but I am telling you, the shift is amazing. And I am just attracting people. And I saw your page, which was interesting because backstage before we came on, I said, I'm so glad that I went to your master class this last week, because I had no idea how in depth you are as a practitioner. Because I'm thinking, oh, what are the 3 common mistakes people make in dating? That's where I was gonna go with this. And I'm going, last night, I'm going, oh my God. And the questions just kept coming and coming and coming. And this is such an important topic. It really is, because people need to know about this. Myself personally have been in a sympathetic as opposed to parasympathetic. I suffered anxiety and depression, but I want to hear your backstory and how you got into this practice.
Yeah. So just for the sake of time, I'm not going to take you back to the beginning of time, but just people always ask me, how did I become a dating and relationship expert? And also, I specialize in somatic experiencing and somatic therapy. And I didn't just wake up one day and decide that this was going to be the path I was going to choose. The path really chose me.
Yes.
So about 8.5 years ago, I had launched my coaching practice. And at that time, I was teaching other coaches and consultants how to launch and scale their online businesses with heart. And if you followed me on social media, or if you knew me in real life during that time, I like to say that I was living the epitome of a highlight reel. My business was wildly successful. I was being featured in the New York Times, NBC News. I had a ton of clients. I was also traveling the world with my so-called friends. I use friends in quotation marks because I don't really talk to many of them anymore. And I had my own real life version of what I like to call a Kindle by my side, my boyfriend who was traveling the world with me.
Kendall. Yeah.
Yeah, my Kindle. And so it's important to note too, Tina, that at this time, I was doing all of the things that we as successful men and women and entrepreneurs are taught to do. I was reading one personal development book every single month. I had an entire team of therapists and coaches. I had a robust morning routine. I would even recite my affirmations in the morning for 20 minutes without fail. Like I never skipped a day. And even though all of this was happening and I was holding up this huge facade, I will never forget, I had one morning, it was a Wednesday morning, and it changed everything for me. And I was standing in the mirror, reciting my affirmations like I always do. And I felt this pit in my stomach. And I was like, something's not right. And I glanced down at my phone and I had 6 missed calls from my perfect Ken doll boyfriend, from his mom. And so I picked the phone back up and I called her. And she called to let me know that my boyfriend at the time had checked himself into rehab for the 6th time that year. Yeah. So that was call number.
Keep trying, right?
I know, right? Well, and me for staying on for I dated him through 6 trips to rehab. Like what was that? Now I look at it.
You were with him through all 6
all
times?
6. All 6 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that say? Yeah.
Yeah. It says a lot.
I've gone down that road too.
Right. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment, but there were 2 more calls that day that I received. The second call came from my accountant letting me know that my seemingly booming business was 30K in the red. And he had no idea how we were going to crawl out because I was spending money quicker than I was making it. It was just going out left and right. And then the third call came, and mind you, this is all within a 24-hour period. The third call came and it was from my doctor, calling to let me know that a biopsy I had taken earlier that week had come back as potential cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So here I was doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing.
Tina, can you sit
And
up if
my
possible?
life
Sorry, girls.
fell apart.
Tina,
It was
can you
like the
sit up?
rug was ripped
Is
out
that possible?
completely from underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew in that moment that the mindset work and the therapy and the morning routines, all these things that I was taught I'm supposed to do, I knew there was something that wasn't working. And so I had a dear friend of mine at that time who had been seeing a somatic therapist, and she recommended that I go see him. And long story short, without getting into the details, I felt like a completely different woman after experiencing my first somatic experiencing session. And I stuck with it. I decided to become a student of love and to really pour myself into the somatic work because it was helping. And 6 months later, I found my first healthy relationship at 33. I also took my business from 30K in the red to making 30K in a few short weeks. And the best part was that I eradicated my cancer scare. It was gone. The doctors were like, right?
So did you have cancer, or you did? It was a scare. So you thought you might have, but you didn't.
Yeah. They went in and they took a huge, not to get into too much detail, but it was in my cervix and they took a big part of my cervix out. And I did not have to go through radiation. They thought that they got it through that. But I truly, truly believe that going through the somatic work and understanding how to get my body to safety kept that from getting much worse than it already was.
And it was in the master class, you were saying you were over exercising, you were under eating, because I'm a cancer survivor. So I had breast cancer in 2011.
Yes.
Similar story. And I was over exercising, under eating, very stressed out. And that causes acid in your body. So if your body's acidic, it's a breeding ground for that. So everybody that's listening to this, be very, very aware. This is not the subject we're talking about, but now that we're talking about it, be very aware, because everything that I was doing was creating acid in my body. So, and I believe too that the trapped emotions causes the diseases.
Right. Absolutely.
It's not, you're predestined for it. It's in your family. I mean, personally, I don't subscribe to that. I think you might have the gene, but if you process your emotions. So tell us what somatic therapy is, because I just learned about this about 4 months ago. I interviewed Dr. Scott Lyons. Do you know who he is? He does the somatic therapy. And so go ahead and tell everybody what it is.
Yeah. So somatic experiencing and somatic therapy is therapy of the nervous system. So if you think about we as humans at our most primal part, really, and not even just us as humans, any mammal on the planet has a nervous system. And your nervous system, to put it in simple terms, we call it the autonomic nervous system, but for you to just be able to wrap your head around it, I want you to think about it as the automatic nervous system, because it automatically responds when there is threat present. So there are 4 survival responses that your nervous system will go into when it feels like threats present. Fight, which we've heard of, and flight, both are sympathetic nervous system responses. And then freeze and fawn are parasympathetic nervous system responses. Now, these are the survival responses. The nervous system is also in control of rest and digest and safety. But here's where it gets a little bit convoluted when you're thinking about having a healthy relationship with someone or having a healthy relationship with your body so that your body doesn't break down and cancer sets in. If you have experienced some sort of trauma in the past, and just to clarify the definition of trauma, it is the stuck psychosomatic response to any overwhelming event that was too fast, too much, or too soon for your body to get to safety. If you've experienced trauma in your past, and your body went into a survival response, your nervous system said, I have to stay safe. And that survival response got stuck in the body. Okay. You got stuck in that flight response and it never resolved back to safety. Then your baseline, every time you get close to something that was similar to that event, will go back into that stuck response. Right?
Yes.
Over and over until it's renegotiated. So somatic therapy renegotiates those stuck responses so that you can have safety and connection as your baseline versus protection and survival.
Right, because you talk about that protection versus what is it? Protection versus connection. Protection versus connection. Yes, exactly. So tell us the difference between, so we know what the fight or flight, because that was one of my questions, the fawn and freeze. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yep. So freeze and fawn are both parasympathetic responses. Now, you also need to understand that safety and rest and digest is also parasympathetic. But when we speak about freeze and fawn, we're talking about, and this is the way I like to explain it, it's like the e-brake in your car gets pulled. Okay. So you're in a complete collapse in your system. So if you think about the freeze response, it's just like it sounds. If a bear was coming after you and you couldn't run away from it and you couldn't fight it, and it was starting to maul you to death, your body will automatically go into a freeze response. It'll play dead. Right?
Yeah.
Now, in human interaction, that looks like when there's threat present, when there's an argument with your significant other, you just shut down. You don't say anything. You give the silent treatment. That's the freeze response. The fawn response is people pleasing. But here's the deal.
Okay.
The fawn response mimics the freeze response. So the same thing happens in your system. You shut down,
Right.
you play dead inside, but you're just people pleasing. You're like a talking parrot saying things that
because in a sense, that is your survival.
Yes.
If I'm good enough, if I'm, that, yes, exactly. Okay. So I'm so glad that you clarified that, because, and that is your subconscious, not your conscious, right? The fawn and freeze it is your subconscious, because it's not something you think about. It just naturally happens when you get triggered, is what you're saying.
So yes, I actually, let me explain something, because it's much different than conscious and subconscious. Because when we talk about the nervous system doesn't speak in logic or story. Okay. So you thinking, is this cognitive or is it not? Trying to make a story of why something is happening the way that it is. That the nervous system doesn't actually speak that language. The nervous system speaks in sensation and in emotion only. Okay. So when someone's in the freeze response or when someone's in the fawn response, I, as a practitioner, notice their eyes get really big, right? Their shoulders may come in, or if they're fawning, they may get really wide in their chest because they're going to peacock and say something they don't want to say, right? If you ask them about their digestion, everything feels cold. Their fingertips might feel cold. Their feet might feel cold. The nervous system is giving you sensation and emotion cues that it's in freeze and in fawn. This is why it's so important for you to learn the language of your nervous system.
Right. And this is because let's back up to the affirmations, because I'm shaking my head the whole time when you were talking, because I did it too. And I'm going, why is this not working? In fact, it was getting worse. And I shared with everybody. I mean, I didn't realize or give credit to how much trauma I've gone through in my life, because I was just like, I'm the tough one. I can handle it. I'm just like, and then all of a sudden it caught up to me severely. About 5 years ago. And then I got over that hump. I lost like everything too. I had to move out of my house with my 14-year-old son. I mean, I lost my relationship, everything, same thing. The rug was taken out from under me. And, they say breakdown is a breakthrough too, because if that had not, and I was thinking about this in the shower today, if that had not happened, that's how life gets you to pay attention. Some people don't have to have the house fall on them. Evidently I do. And so then a couple months ago, now let's see, last January, maybe a little bit before then, probably about a year ago, I felt like I was losing my mind. I was having anxiety through the roof. I was having depression. I would wake up at 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. I realized I had gut problems, and I know that is associated to those things. Cleared up my gut, still had it. So now, if you're looking for answers, you'll usually find them. So I think I was like, what is going on here, God? What is going on here? So Scott Lyons first, then you learned about this. I just got certified in as a flow coach, which uses movement and breathing. And like I said earlier, I got into the breath work, but this, it takes it like to another level because there's meditation involved. There is cognitive behavioral therapy, the talk therapy as well, correct? And I think you were saying yesterday that if you do this kind of therapy, you'll never go back to traditional therapy.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that too. This is like the holistic version of therapy, people.
Mhm.
And everybody knows where I stand on like big pharma. Okay. So traditional therapy, you know,
So-
if you go take this medication, you have anxiety, take this.
Yes.
And it's that's going to kill you. And it kind of numbs you out. That's all it'll do. You know, so this is asking you to feel your feelings.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I was just going to say is that in traditional talk therapy, it is now, and they've done research on this. And I'm not poo-pooing talk therapy because it's definitely needed. And I always say that healing, if you look at it as a puzzle with somatic therapy and talk therapy, it's an 80-20 puzzle. We need the 20% of the cognitive awareness to start to put things together for ourselves. Other 80% that most talk therapists don't know how to address and touch is the nervous system. Right? We've done so much work up here, but what about from the neck down? And so traditional talk therapy, you're talking about your problems, and what you'll notice, at least this was true for me and for most of the clients that make their way to me, is that they leave a talk therapy session and they feel worse. Right? The day after. They may feel great in that moment because they've just word vomited, but the next day they feel worse. And the reason is because all you're doing is you're bringing all of that activation up to the surface, all of that trauma back up in your body, and you're not doing the work to resolve it in your nervous system.
To release it. Yeah. It's just stuck there.
Right. So somatic therapy goes into, okay, and I tell my clients this, you don't actually have to tell me anything about what happened because your nervous system is already giving me everything I need. Even if I just bring up, talk to me about that one time that, let's say you were sexually assaulted in 6th grade, right? You don't even have to say anything out of your mouth, and your nervous system already gives me everything I need, and I can work with that. So somatic therapy is therapy of looking at where you're in those protection responses and going into those protection responses and allowing them to deactivate into safety so that that can become your baseline, and you can really renegotiate those survival responses in your body.
Right, exactly. And, you know, you talked about being in your masculine before. And that's one thing that I've been fighting with, how do I drop into my feminine? How do I drop into my feminine? And so why don't we talk about that, of how that gets you, if you're a woman, to drop into your feminine, and because I think this is a lot of the reason there's problems out there with dating right now. Women are very in their masculine, men are very in their feminine, or wounded. They're not truly in their masculine. So of course, I mean, Danny said, if you are in your masculine as a female, you're going to attract a wounded male. That's what you're going to attract. You're not going to attract somebody that's fully in his masculine.
It's so true. And I'll tell you a little bit about my own personal experience with this, because and you see this in the world, there are so many independent, strong, successful women now that are out there. And part of that reason is because we grew up with masculine figures who weren't truly in their masculine. And so we had to go into a protection response to be able to protect and provide for ourselves. We had to go into that flight response and go into that fight response and get really comfy there in order to put food on the table, in order to make sure we had a roof over our heads, in order to take care of our kids. Had to do that because a lot of, and it's so generational, Tina, when we really look at it, right? I mean, I know my personal story. My father was never told I love you from his dad until his dad was on his deathbed. And that is really important to a man. In order to
did your father tell you he loved you?
All the time, but he was operating still out of that space of not feeling enough.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe that's why he was smothering you with I love yous.
Potentially, for sure, because he wanted me to get what he didn't.
Yeah.
But also you have to remember that even if he was telling me I love you, I love you, I love you, his nervous system still didn't feel like he was enough. And we co-regulate with our parents' nervous systems. So my whole life, I then grew up feeling I was never enough. right? Even though he told me I love you all the time, his nervous system wasn't giving me that signal. And
Oh,
so then I started going into
that's interesting. Because you do say that it starts when you're in the womb.
it does. Moment of conception. The moment of conception, you start to co-regulate with mom's nervous system and dad's nervous system.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes a lot of sense for me. I mean, I'm going, maybe my mom was under, I didn't know, but maybe she was not feeling right and whatever she was putting,
Right.
and then of course, then I had my dad who scared the bejeebies out of me.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, I don't see any other way that I know of, unless there's other modalities out there, to truly get to the bottom of it other than this.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe I'm biased, but I've done a lot of research and there really isn't. I mean, and I've done it all. I've done internal family systems, which is fantastic. It's a great way to connect dots cognitively. I've done CBT. I've done brain spotting. I've done EMDR. I've had mindset coaches. I mean, I've done NLP and hypnotherapy and everything that they tell you to do. And nothing addresses the root cause like somatic therapy and somatic. And I'll say this, somatic therapy and somatic experiencing. If you are going to see someone for breath work or tapping or some other sort of somatic modality, make sure that they are a somatic experiencing practitioner and they know how to properly renegotiate trauma. If you have someone in a heightened flight response and you're getting them to sit there and try to breathe, good luck. You may completely wreck their nervous system because it doesn't feel safe. So you need someone who really can understand how that shows up in the body.
Interesting. Why don't we talk about this, how this plays into dating? Because you're, is that your first and foremost dating and relationship coach? Because that's how I found you on, Instagram. Like I said, I was going to ask you all the other different questions, but tell us how that works in coaching somebody with dating.
Yeah. So you have to remember that how you do one thing is how you do everything. Okay, so if you are operating out of a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response as your baseline, then chances are that is exactly what you're calling in if you're out in the dating world, or that's exactly where you are showing up in your relationship with someone else. Okay. So if you haven't done the work to really understand what is my relationship to self, where is my baseline? Do I feel confident and safe in my body the majority of the time? If the answer is no, and you're operating at a flight or freeze or fawn or fight, then that's exactly what you're going to be calling into your romantic relationships. And so the way that I approach my practice is that we use attachment theory combined with somatic therapy. Because I truly believe if you can heal your relationship to self through somatic therapy, this has been proven, you will shift how you attract
attachment theory. Yeah, your attachment, because I'm an anxious. So in case people don't know that there's 3 attachment theories, there's there's the secure, there's the anxious, and there's the avoidant.
Right.
And you mentioned too, very much like me, is that if you are an anxious, that means if you get in a relationship, it's like, for me, it's like that I get anxious that they're going to, if I don't want to fall too much, because what happens if they leave?
Yeah.
Right. So you don't really have a shot of having a relationship as being an anxious.
Well, exactly. Well, and this is what I like to say too about attachment theory. Attachment theory is great. Okay. But so many people have now used attachment theory as a label. They're like, I'm avoidant attached. I am anxious attached. And the truth is, we are that way because we created protection responses to receive love in that manner. And the truth is, everybody can get to secure attachment. Every single person can get there if they're willing to do the work to truly look at their nervous system and get safety.
Yes. So you could be an anxious right now, but after this work, you would be a secure.
Sure. Yes.
So it's the way I'm seeing this is like how we do, let's say, affirmations to change the neural pathways in our brain to the subconscious. It's basically doing that physically.
Yes.
Yes. So you're changing the way you feel.
Absolutely. You're shifting neural pathways because you're getting to safety in your nervous system first. And then the brain can get on board when the body's safe.
Do you know how strong this is? And you know what? I'm going to ask you this question because this happened to me 5 years ago. I was in a relationship, and all of a sudden, when the patterns change, you're like, "Uh-oh," it's like, yeah, I see it coming. And I'll tell you, when I get like that, the alarm bells go off. Okay, and I like ended it like that. I mean, I didn't even have any control. My fingers were typing, the text. And I remember just having so much guilt and shame. Why do I do that? Why do I do that? And then I thought, well, it's my intuition. It's protecting me. So, there's a question for you. I remember going, is it because I'm being triggered, or is it my intuition guiding me? And do you have anything to say on that?
Well, I'll say this. When something triggers you to go into a protection response, okay, your brain actually goes offline. So when you think about if a bear comes in the room, you don't have time to think about which path you're going to take to get away from the bear. Your body just automatically goes into it. Okay. So if you're in a triggered response, chances are you're not thinking about what to do.
Right.
However, when you get to safety, which really this is the essence of my work, is to get people to get their baseline to safety the majority of the time so that they can actually listen to their intuition. So in that moment, Tina, I would say that you had some sort of a resource available to you that got you to a space where you were able to access some sort of safety to realize this isn't right. And then you reacted from that space of safety.
Exactly. Okay. So you know what? Traditional therapists, going back to that for a minute, will give you antidepressants for the same reason, to get you to the point where you feel calm enough, even though you might be numb, to be able to start talking about things. I mean, think about everybody that's listening. I really want you to take this in, because you know what? Think about, you have two choices here of getting out of the anxiety and out of the depression. And for me, I felt like I just wanted to jump off myself a lot of the time. Sometimes I didn't even feel connected to myself at all. I'm like, who am I? I mean, I'm looking at myself. I exist. I see myself in the mirror, but I don't even have any integration at all within myself. So let's talk about what you've got, a master class coming up. Tell us about that one. I want to join that one too.
Yeah. So it is on the 30th of October.
Okay.
And it's going to be all about how to stop attracting toxic partners. So I have had so many women reach out saying, I just don't understand how to cease the cycle. Like, I get it, but how do I stop calling these men or calling these women in who aren't ready to commit, who are emotionally available, who keep ghosting me, who the list goes on, right? And so I'm going to talk about not only the science behind how to quit attracting toxic partners, but I'm actually going to show you how to do it, how to shift it for yourself. So that's going to
be Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's an hour long, right?
Yep. It's going to be an hour long. There's going to be some Q&A, and I might even do a little bit of a demo, a little somatic experiencing demo in there too.
I love that. Pick me.
Maybe I will. That'd be great.
I'm in line first. That sound okay. So that's October. Now, where do they register for that? On your website, your link tree? Where do they get that?
So I sent you the link, so we can drop it. We can drop it in the comment box after this is over. But also it will be up.
Oh, yeah, and in the description. Yes, of course.
Yes. I'll also put it in this is the first time we've announced it live. We're not announcing it until tomorrow. So everybody here is going to get first dibs on it, but it'll also be in my link in bio by tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. You know what? There is another question I want to ask you too before I go on to your course. You said your body reflection is a direct connection to your nervous system. Tell me what you mean by that.
Repeat that first part that you said. It bleeped out for a second, Tina.
Oh, it's okay. Says that your body reflection is a direct connection to your nervous system.
Yeah. So the way that you view yourself, right, whether you're looking in the mirror or you're having a hard day, it is a direct reflection of how safe you feel in your nervous system and in your body. So if you're operating like I was, remember when we talk about you and I overeating or over exercising and under eating?
Yeah.
I was in a constant flight state. I never felt safe in my body. I never even knew what peace and safety felt like.
Yes.
Because I constantly felt like I had to keep going and going and going. And so because of that, my reflection was that I never was skinny enough. I never was fit enough because I never felt safe.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. In fact, I still have body dysmorphia.
Yeah, I do too. I have to work.
And everybody's like, you're so small. I'm like, so now you don't have body dysmorphia. Now you can really see yourself for who you are and go and, you know, and give yourself praise. And
Yeah. Well, let me back up because I still have body dysmorphia. I still struggle from time to time. It's not nearly as much as I used to struggle back in the day, but now I have the tools to be able to interrupt the flight cycle when it starts. And I'm able to say, I got to get myself to safety. I've got to pull out these resourcing tools to get my body to safety so that I can start to feel what we call ventral vagal connection again. Yes. And then I can go back and I feel different about myself, right? But I didn't have those tools before.
Let me ask you, just approximately, how many times a day would you say you have to do this? For you?
It's so funny. Somebody asked me that yesterday. It's my way of life now. And honestly, as a practitioner, part of the practitioner work is that you have to get yourself to safety before you lead a client. And if a client's getting out of safety, you've got to know how to bring yourself and them back. So I'm in it all day. So I have a little bit of a different scenario and like I'm kind of forced into it daily.
Right.
But now it's just kind of, it's a secondary muscle. It's just my body knows how to go there and what it needs when it's not there. And so I would say that for someone who's first starting out, it's definitely a learning curve. You're learning a brand new language. It's like learning Spanish. Right? You've got to be able to learn what your body, the language of your body. And most of us aren't taught how to speak that or listen to that. So now it's second nature. But starting out, it was really bumpy. It was just like learning a new language.
So how long before you got proficient in it, would you say?
Oh my gosh. I think I could ask the question, like, am I truly proficient? I mean, I guess I am because I do it all day long, but I would say most of my programs are 3 to 6 months long. And my women are like, they're crushing it. They're finding a line partnership and they're in love with their body and they're calling in money. It doesn't take long. It's not a hard language to learn. I would say 3 to 6 months. You can be really proficient.
Okay. So is that working with you one-on-one? Because I saw on your website, you have an Aligned Love Collective. And then you're also coming out with a book. When's the book coming out, by the way?
The book's coming out next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's right around the corner. And you have also a podcast. You have the Aligned Love podcast.
I do.
And where do people find that? On Spotify, Apple, everything?
Yeah. So we are actually doing a relaunch of the podcast because it was a different name. And so we're going to release 10 episodes at the beginning of the year. So the book and the podcast, it's all coming. We're in process of it right now.
Oh, good. I love
it. Of the year.
That's great. So you said you do 3 months, 6 months, you have a course. Well, what is the course? I mean, where would they work one-on-one with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I do take select one-on-one clients. I am on a wait list now until 2024 because I only take a certain number per year. So if you do want to get in to work with me in 2024, there is an application. You can find that in my link in bio. However, I have a team of somatic therapists that work for me. And they do one-on-one containers, but my signature program is the Align Love Collective. And it is a 3-month group coaching container that goes through my 12 module format. And then you show up and you have therapy every single week for 3 months. In that container. So that's our signature program. That's the one that most people join, but I do still, I do therapy one-on-one with clients. And so do my therapists that are underneath me as well.
Okay. So did you see that one's a 3-month course, right?
That one's a 3-month course.
And you meet it's in a group setting and you meet every week.
Every week. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yep. Not with you though, necessarily with one of your.
You get me once a month.
Okay.
In a separate container.
And the other 3 times? The
other times are with my therapists that are underneath me. Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. But it's group. How do you, I mean, do people open up with group
Oh, yeah.
therapy?
They definitely do. Definitely do. And because you're going, there's a lot of structure to it because you're going through my framework. What happens is that you go through a module, you'll watch a video and do the workbook associated with that module. And then you show up and you get somatic therapy around that module every single week. So everyone's working through the same thing in their nervous system at the same time.
Okay.
But we limit the groups to 9 women. If you're in the men's collective, 9 men.
Oh, okay.
So it's a
That's
small
fair.
group,
Yeah.
and everybody gets one-on-one within the group.
Okay. And so if you, after the 3 months, do you think you would have enough knowledge and experience to do it for yourself?
Oh, 1000%. I always say, my goal is for you to not need me after this 3-month container is over. And I would say 95% of the men and women that go through our program, they do not need us past the 3-month container.
Okay. And that is the collective one, right? That's the,
Yes.
Okay. And that, yeah, I found that, I think it's the first page of your website. Okay.
Yes, it is on there.
All right. Is there anything else that you want anybody to know, our audience to know?
I don't think so. I think the big thing would just be, if you haven't taken the time to really look at your nervous system and understand it, start to educate yourself. Really start to dive in and do the work. Reach out to me. You can ask questions. I'm always in my DMs. You can ask me questions there. I'm always here to support you, but it really will change your life if you start to do the work.
Well, yeah. And if you're experiencing any kind of anxiety or depression, that's a sign right there.
Huge.
You know,
we've had so many women and men, Tina, get off of their antidepressants. And
I bet. And you know what it said in there too, that it's good for, I don't know if it was on your site, because I did some research on this, for addictions too.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yep.
Because you're trying to like not feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But if you can get to the point where you can feel it and you don't have that discomfort and that tightness and everything else, you're not going to go be dependent on something that's really just there to numb you out anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
I know.
So true.
Oh, it happened to my leg. Okay. Well, anyways, it's been such a pleasure having you here, Lauren, and I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you, and I'm going to look into your course because I need this. I know I need this. And so I'm so happy that I found you on Instagram, and I look forward to working with you.
Yeah. Sounds great, Tina. It was so, so wonderful to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next week. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. It's Tina Marx TV, and we'll see you next week. All right. Live. Oh, thank you so much, Lauren.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll be in touch with you.
Sounds good.
Oh, what happened to the sound? Can't hear you anymore.
Oh no.
No. But I've got your phone number, and I'm going to send you a text so you've got mine too.
Perfect. I would love that. And can you hear me?